What do you think for the next term? Do you think he'll run for mayor?
That is, every media outlet has asked me about that, and I understand it's going to be, a growing city, big election coming up, and it's a good time over the holidays for me to take some time and reflect on that, and I never announce or even plan my intentions too far ahead, because the key right now is to focus on being the mayor for the city, for the election that I already was successful in. So I'll keep you posted.
So I'm curious, kind of building on that though, have you decided and just are kind of waiting to say, or is it still something you're mulling over?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big decision. It takes there's lots to consider, including with my family and so on. So yeah, I haven't made a final call, but I'm hearing rumors both directions, and it really comes down to a chance to talk to my family and come to that final place. Yeah, but we just went through managing through the budget process, and lots of big decisions that are really need focus and attention right now. And to me, it's important not to. The election is still almost a year away. Not to get your head too much into election mode too early, because I've learned that really for the election, what matters is the last 4 or 5 months, not a year.
So walking into the city hall, there's mayors lined all across the kind of top of near the roof. Walking into your office, there's different city councils going back to what I saw was 1925. When you're looking at some of these previous mayors, is there one that you want to be compared to? I know this, we don't know if you're running for mayor next election or not, but is there one that when your terms are up and you decided to kind of at least hang them up, that there's like a mayor that you want to be compared to?
Well, probably the one that I guess has resonated the most is Cliff Wright. He was somebody who was very connected to people, built a lot of strong relationships, and worked, as everything I understand, as a team with his staff, with his council, with the community, and identified people and opportunities and leaders, throughout the community in the work that he did, and helped to initiate and help, put the pieces together for some really key developments that have shaped our city as well. So, yeah, I would say that somebody like Cliff Wright stands out in my knowledge of the mayors that have come before me and helped to build the city to get to this point.
And you mentioned some of the things that he had done. Is there something that you want to be remembered for?
Well, I mean, I want to be remembered, I guess, as somebody who helped the city through a time of transformation. We've seen huge growth in our city, and our city has become much, much more diverse and much more global as a city. And in doing that, it's really important you build strong relationships and networks and a fabric of within the community. And in particular, as we know, in terms of the work of truth and reconciliation and building the partnerships and the trust and some successes that can show a path forward to build a stronger future in terms of how the Indigenous and non-Indigenous community works together than what has happened in the past. And then also, as we've got more and more people moving here from all over the world, that there's a sense that diversity can become a strength that could help catapult Saskatoon to becoming a truly great global city if we understand how to make sure everybody can fully contribute. I've worked to build the conditions for that. And we've also opened the Ramey Modern Art Gallery. We've opened the Nutrient Wonder Hub. We've opened the Gordie House Sports Complex expansion, and as well as Marilla Belcher Place, and done a lot of the groundwork for the downtown event and entertainment district. So there's a lot of things that we've really worked to add to our community as well. But ultimately, I hope people find me somebody they like to work with, and felt that was someone they could trust and did a good job as mayor.
Is there even like maybe one project specifically that you're hoping that when people think, oh, Charlie Clark, he pushed through the BRT, or looked at the Central Live? Like, is there something like that you really think people want to?
Yeah, for me, this question of a legacy is more about, are we are we creating the conditions for our city to be one that helps all people really become, who they want to be in a city, and where all young people, feel like there's a chance for them to succeed from all backgrounds. I guess I don't really see this project or that project being ultimately what will shape the city going forward. But I have been wanting to make sure we're a city that people there's enough activities and vibrancy and amenities that make you want to give people a sense that this is a happening, fun city. And so the combination of all those things, from River Landing to the gallery to Wonder Hub and the sports complexes and things, are all a big part of that too.
Is there anything that, you've been in council for a long time now, I think 17 years?
Yeah.
Mayor for 2 terms. Is there something that you look back on and you wish you could have, a redo or a chance to kind of change something that you'd decided or kind of made a change to in the city?
I would have liked to have seen the farmers market, up and running and much more, quickly, not have such a long period of time where that building has not been able to really truly become what it's meant to be. I would have liked it if there wasn't such a rocky process to get the Ramey open, and some of the challenges around that were certainly tough. And I would really like it if we had been successful in creating a more integrated, coordinated system of care for people who are homeless and who are facing addictions and mental health. It's been not something I'm proud of, that in some ways a lot of those challenges have become harder, and the loss of families, families losing people to overdose, and some of the impacts of those things on families. And we are seeing it right across North America, so I know it's not unique to our city, but those are things that I certainly would like to see better outcomes, so that we are having less people falling through the cracks.
And I do want to talk a bit more about the homelessness and addictions issues, because like you said, it is across Canada and Saskatchewan. The city of Regina's had their own issues with that. We've had our own issues here in Saskatoon. But a lot of people also, they blame the SIS program. They look at the funding for harm reduction, the lack of funding there. So there is blame being put on the province. Do you think there's also blame that people are putting on the city as well?
Sure. I mean, we every order of government has a role to play, and I mean, I'm proud that we've seen both our fire and police departments really shift into more proactive partnerships and work to try to help address these issues. It does make a huge difference if there is an easily accessible social assistance program for people who are just trying to get out of that desperate place of homelessness and back on their feet. The SIS challenges have definitely, not made it easier, and as well, we see in the need to really make sure that if someone's released from Dubé or the hospital, that there's somewhere to go. We need the supportive housing in place and all of those things, and those aren't things that the city can easily participate in. We've really tried to offer ourselves as partners, and now, or even in the very challenging role of finding facilities and finding locations for some of the shelter facilities that are needed. But those aren't the end game. What we really need is a supportive housing, and we've been working to try to get more federal dollars into the community and to run that. Where we have not stepped up is for the city to start to pay for and run that kind of housing in the community. And the part of the reason is the property tax base that we have to fund this just is nowhere nearly up to the job of being able to actually meet the need where it is, and we don't. It needs to be integrated into the already existing systems of housing and health that are under the mandate of the provincial government.
And so, do you think that with looking at those options, are you not able to do them? Is it not feasible for the city financially to do them, or is it something that
We certainly, as you saw from the last budget, don't have the capacity to step in and run a lot of those things. To start running shelters and paying, operating them. But the other thing is the success of any one of those facilities is tied to how well it's integrated into the already existing provincial health and housing and justice systems. And I think for the city on its own to try and go in and fill that gap when we don't have the levers on how those other systems are working would really set it up for failure as well. So we want to partner and participate where our roles are, but and help to make sure that we see and understand where the gaps are and how to get the right funding and programming in place. But to fill it ourselves, I think, would be setting up expectations that we wouldn't be able to meet in the community.
And so those are issues that citywide you're having issues with money. But for yourself, just looking at this problem, what have been the challenges for you when you're looking top down at the homelessness and addictions problem? Just for yourself, is there emotional challenges or anything like that you kind of see doing this?
Yeah, I mean, it's still it's a network of organizations and institutions and ministries that are all run by people. And the ideal situation is where everybody can all get in a room together, work together, and be able to build the solutions together. But there's that requires a lot of trust, that requires a lot of relationship building, and we've seen some success in terms of those coordinated approaches, but sometimes where it can get challenging is the creation of the right process and the right partnerships, among all the players to get there, and there's a lot of players, and so it is very hard to be able to see that, and I think that's where I think, well, is there a way I could help to better convene and bring the people together who can work together to build those solutions, especially now as we're trying to figure out how to work between Indigenous-led organizations like the Tribal Council or the Métis community and some of the non-Indigenous organizations and the provincial government and the city. It's quite complicated, and we've made some real progress. We've seen some real success with Tribal Council, stepping in and playing a big role in helping to meet the needs. I think if we could build more partnerships, we could even make more success. And that just takes everybody building up that trust and finding the ways that they can work together to meet the needs of the people in our community.
And as you're mentioning, one of the issues with solving this homelessness and addictions issue is money. And the budget, of course, we just had finished. One of the things that councillors were a bit split on was the library budget, which I believe ended 6-5 to being passed, particularly the central library project. With the kind of financial issues that we've been talking about, what's kind of your argument for doing the library project now versus pushing it off or waiting until it's more affordable for the city?
Well, almost everybody said that when it comes to, we have seen all the costs of inflation coming, but that we're not likely to necessarily see it drop. Hopefully it'll level off and not go up. What we see with almost any project I've heard of that has been, shovel ready and ready to go and then waits longer, that sometimes it just gets more expensive, and not less, or even where there's retendering and things like that. So I think what the library's approach to have a project manager in place, the construction management, they, based on some of the early signs, are seeing that they've got some ways of reorganizing the project to make it fit within the budget. And they've been saving money and putting money away since 2009. They've actually really built up a funding plan and a model that is proven, but they've been desperately needing to replace the existing building for many years, and they're ready. So if they can do it within the existing budget, and they brought in a very modest increases, with the budget they were asking for. To meet some of the needs that are primarily around safety in the facilities and adapting to technology and some of those things. I think they are doing their best under some very challenging circumstances, and I think our city will be very well served once we see a new central library, and based on the experience of other cities that have built these facilities, they become community hubs, and they are absolutely critical to helping be the link for all residents to be able to make sure they're not falling behind in an informational world. And we heard a lot about that at their presentation.
And they did talk, yeah, they talked about, they offer more services than what they're supposed to, as far as, helping people with mental health issues and things like that coming through their library. So kind of looking at that kind of benefit to the city, what would also be your argument for, the downtown entertainment and event center? So that's also, that could be a potentially large bill here coming up. What would your argument be to, that we need that right now?
We're not going to get it right now. What we're doing is planning, right? So the first big thing to do is to find a location. That took some time. Now, once you have a location, you still don't know the scope, the cost, ultimately of what the project is going to be until you've got a location. Then you can start, coming up with the plan of what's all going to be included, what's the scope of that location, what kind of buildings will fit in best to make it work. So that's all the planning work that we've been doing and engaging with the community to find out, what are the elements of what will make this truly a gathering place for a modern global city like we have become and are going to be. Then, we'll know the cost, and then we'll have and we're also identifying the sources of revenue, whether it's from tax incremental financing or an accommodation tax, provincial, federal support, all of those things, ticket surcharges. This year we will be talking about what are the costs, what are the revenues, and only once you've got some of those revenues secured can you do the detailed design and construction. So construction is still, well over a year away at least right now on the project. But the longer we take, the more expensive it's going to get if we don't at least get the design in place, make sure you have a shelf-ready or shovel-ready project for when those funding opportunities come up. And that's how we built actually the Chief Mistawasas and traffic rebuild, was getting it all ready, and then when the funding is available, then you can pull the trigger. So that's really where we're at right now, is the getting it all ready part.
And that's kind of talking about that. There, people are like the library project. People are a bit kind of split as far as that downtown event center, worried that the cash might not be there. Is there anything else that you think people misunderstand about the project?
Well, I think what's really important, I don't want to spend a huge amount of money on a project either. It's a hard thing to wrap your head around. The issue is there isn't a cost. There's a high cost to doing nothing. It's not between spending money on this or being able to save a whole bunch of money, because the existing facility is not going to be able to continue to bring in those international concerts and events. We haven't been able to successfully get the World Juniors back with the existing layout of that facility. Hamilton is just spending $280 million to renovate their Copps Coliseum, which is closer into the downtown already. I can't see how doing something here would be any less. We only have estimates from 2018 on that, and so if as a city, as we're growing at record pace, we want to make sure we're able to bring into the province those kind of acts that we've been used to and that people have come to love to come through here, whether you like Shania Twain or Morgan Wallen or we hope to get Bruce Springsteen, but we missed out on him. And maybe Taylor Swift one day, then if in order to get those, we got to have facilities, and in order to have facilities, we got to plan for them. And so I guess it's not a choice between spending money on one thing and not having to spend money on anything. It's going to cost us either way. I'd rather build and plan for something that's going to help bring that downtown vibrancy and that vitality, and be able to keep the restaurants and the shops and the heart of our city really strong. And so that's the problem-solving exercise that we're underway on right now.
So to make sure I'm understanding this right, so as far as kind of any misunderstanding about the project, it's not that looking at this downtown entertainment event center, it's not that if we spend money here, that's money that's being spent just flippantly, I guess. It's either spend money there or spend money to renovate that SaskTel Center.
That's right. We will, if we want to continue to be able to attract the kind of concerts and events that people are used to and I believe are deserving of a growing global city. There's going to have to be some significant expenditure, and it's either going to have to be, hundreds of millions of dollars on the existing facility that's hard to get to, that doesn't create the ability to have all of the experiences of that you can if you're in a district that doesn't help with some of the need to help keep our downtown strong. It's going to be harder to raise funds for, to be honest, to be able to get the money for a renovation, as opposed to something that is going to be helping to set up our city for the long-term success in the future, both for the downtown and creating the vibrant district that we know has been the successful model in cities around North America.
So one of the things I would want to bring up is we were talking earlier about what things you don't want to be remembered for. Now one of the names that you got while you're as a mayor was Bike Lane Charlie. And I'm curious, what you think of that name. Is that, to my knowledge at least, there are fewer bike lanes now than when you'd first come into office. There was the one on 4th Street that there was a pilot that just didn't go through, a couple others like that. So as far as the name, what do you think about the name Bike Lane Charlie?
Yeah, I think whenever I go into elementary schools and I talk to them, and sometimes I've gone and talk about active transportation stuff, and I say, hey, what do you think about the nickname Bike Lane Charlie? They say, that's great, But I know that where it's coined often is as though somehow that's a criticism, and I think that's somewhat sad. I mean, sometimes it's a good joke to make, but the way that cycling or active transportation infrastructure has become a lightning rod, and us versus them in the community, I would say is something that I find unfortunate. We invest a lot of money in transportation in our community. We don't invest a lot in making sure that the pedestrian and cycling, those who get around by walking and cycling, can get around safely. And whenever we have projects or plans, they get jumped on, early. And it's not uncommon in our city. But that's the nature of politics these days. That's, it's the nature of some of these kind of discussions and debates. And we've made some real success, like the Victoria Avenue lanes that were built connecting the traffic bridge all the way up to 8th Street. People we've heard lots of positive comments about them. The Meewasin Trail network and the expansion of that network is something people are very proud of. The development of the linear park systems in new neighborhoods that enable kids to get to school traveling through linear parks as opposed to on busy streets, or the multi-use paths that go along a lot of the major roads going up into Evergreen and Aspen Ridge. Those have all been successful. So we've been able to actually build a lot of good, safe ways for people to get around of all ages and all abilities. But yeah, the controversy around bike lanes I have found pretty frustrating at times, because we want to just make sure that this city is safe for everyone.
So, I mean, you got the positive connotation from the kids saying, Bike Lane Charlie, that's great. But so do you feel that negative connotation then from some people who talk about bike lanes and say Bike Lane Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a segment of our community that like even in the last election, tearing up bike lanes was sort of a candidate message of some of the candidates, and it's one of those hot button issues that can be popular to jump on. At the same time, our city's a very young city. It's a diverse city. It's not a city where everybody owns a car, but the voices of people who do rely on walking and cycling and transit to get around don't tend to be the loudest voices, and so sometimes I think that's a part of our challenge as well. But it's the nature of civic politics. People get engaged in the issues within a community. And we are and will continue to build out our active transportation plan and make as much progress as we can, so that we don't see deaths either. We had the 2 deaths this year from people, cyclists and car collisions, those are very, very hard on those families. And if you can prevent them, then let's work to do that.
I know, talking about being a politician, people, usually just see you on a screen.
I have to be somewhere at 1.
1? Okay.
Yeah.
What time is it here? Okay, we'll close this down here then. I guess, yeah, we're getting near the end. So, is there something that you think people misunderstand you as far as being in that chair and making these decisions? There's something that you want people to know.
Well, I think people know me pretty well. I mean, when I go and talk to a lot of folks, including business groups, like I'll talk to them about the cycling, nickname and stuff, and I recognize it for what it is. It's a local political situation, but it's been pretty important for me for people to understand that this, you get what you get. I try to focus on making decisions for the community, and in the view that we want everyone in our community to be successful. So I have had a focus on diversity, on reconciliation, on a lot of those aspects of the life of our city, because I believe that is just so important to the long-term success of our community.
And this is my final question, a bit of a lighter one, but you've got a lot of things in here to talk about that have symbolism of truth, reconciliation, on your walls, on the bookshelf. Is there anything or I guess what in your office is most important to you? Something that you really, maybe it's one of the first things you got as a mayor, or something that really stands out to you?
Well, this is it still working? This medallion that was given to me by Gilbert Cuistep, who's an elder in our community and was made by his daughter Kieran Napatang, is something that represents, I think, a huge amount of work in the community as a whole. Lots and lots of people coming together, and the courage of residential school survivors and elders, and the warmth that they've had to reach out and build relationships, even though it's a painful past, and even though people have faced a lot of trauma. So this is probably something that stands out. The eagle feather that I was also given by the tribal chief was a pretty powerful experience as well. Those are two things that I'm going to definitely cherish.